Have you ever had a neighbor so convinced of their own authority that they'd call the cops on you just for standing on your own property? Yeah, that happened to me. Except my neighbor didn't just call 911. She declared war, armed with nothing but a laminated fantasy map and an ego big enough to fill the whole mountain valley. This isn't some urban legend or viral clip. This was my actual life, right here in the supposed peace of Whispering Pines. And trust me, the only thing whispering that day was my patience fraying at the seams. My name's Mark. I work with maps for a living, GIS analyst, if you want to get technical. My job is literally to draw the lines that decide where your world ends and someone else's begins. All I wanted was a quiet life, a patch of pines, a porch to read on, maybe a barbecue with an old college buddy every now and then, and definitely not to star in Brenda's reality show. Brenda, she wasn't just a neighbor. She was the self-crowned empress of our HOA, patrolling the gravel roads in her golf cart like it was her royal carriage. The problem started when my friend David and I were just tossing a frisbee in my backyard, 20 feet from my back door, when Brenda came screeching to a halt, pointed at the ground, and said, "This is common area. No unapproved guests." The audacity was Olympic level. I tried to explain, calmly, reasonably, like a grown-up, that the iron survey stakes marked my property clear as day. She scoffed. "That's your interpretation. Right. You know what I mean?" Like explaining quantum physics to a cat. What she didn't get, what she'd never bother to learn, was that her entire HOA empire was built on a foundation of total geographic nonsense. She was waving around a map from a real estate brochure, one of those bright, cartoonish things designed to sell dream homes, not decide property rights. Me? I had county records, satellite imagery, legal surveys. If there was a boundary, I could find it to the millimeter. She'd just declared war on the one guy who could literally redraw her world. And it was about to get ugly, not just for my little patch of grass, but for every neighbor in Whispering Pines. The Monday after the 911 call, when the deputy, God bless him, suggested we sort it out with the HOA, I decided to play it by the book. I walked to Brenda's porch with the official survey plat in hand, found her pruning her rose bushes, and tried one last time to keep things neighborly. She took one look at the survey, shrugged, and whipped out her own weapon, a full-color laminated community map. It looked nice, sure, but it had about as much legal standing as a monopoly board. I tried, again, to explain the difference between a surveyor's seal and a marketing flyer, but Brenda doubled down, said I'd get a violation notice, a $100 fine for using common property and having an unapproved guest. That was the moment the switch flipped. This wasn't confusion. It was a power play. I went home, waited for the violation letter to arrive, which it did, right on schedule, and started digging. I pulled every plat, deed, and covenant ever filed for Whispering Pines. Scanned, digitized, overlaid, the whole GIS arsenal. The more I pieced together, the more the myth of Brenda's green belt unraveled. Turns out, according to the founding covenants, the HOA only actually owned 2 tracts, a tiny park and a strip by the front gate. Everything else, including the patch Brenda had tried to police, belonged to individual owners. My patch of grass, 100% mine. But as I worked through the records, I found bigger cracks, discrepancies in the plat, survey errors, boundaries that didn't line up. And the largest errors? All centered on the cul-de-sac where Brenda and her 2 loyal board members lived. Suspicious, right? Let me back up a sec. Have you ever run into something so off, so undeniably wrong, that you can't unsee it? That's what happened when I traced the error back to a single survey monument. Just a brass cap in the center of the cul-de-sac, set in concrete, but placed about 15 feet off where it should have been. That tiny mistake had thrown off all the lot lines around it. And here's the twist. It meant Brenda's beloved rose garden, her pride and joy, was actually on her neighbor's land. The community gazebo, the one she'd fundraised and built as her legacy, 1/3 of it was sitting smack on county conservation land, protected, untouchable, and absolutely illegal to build on. Now, this wasn't just about me or a $100 fine. This was systemic. Brenda's entire reign as HOA president was built on a mistake, a literal misplaced monument, and her refusal to check the facts had put the whole community at risk. I knew at that point I couldn't just wave digital maps around at a meeting. Brenda would dismiss it all as my interpretation. I needed physical proof. So I hired a professional land surveyor, a real old-school expert with a truck full of stakes and a decades-long reputation. I sent him everything: plats, my GIS files, the works. He took one look and said, "If you're right, things are about to get real complicated for your HOA." He agreed to do a retracement survey of the whole cul-de-sac: Brenda's, her cronies, the common land, the gazebo. While the crew marked boundaries, I played the long game. Wrote a calm letter to the HOA board contesting the violation, built a paper trail, and asked for a spot on the agenda at the annual HOA meeting. Meanwhile, Brenda kept doubling down, sending snarky emails to the community, reminding everyone to get landscaping approved by the architectural committee, herself, of course. She saw me walking my property one evening and shouted, "Still trying to find a loophole, Mark?" She was so convinced of her own power, she had no idea the ground, literally, was about to shift under her feet. The day the survey crew arrived, picture a perfect fall morning: orange leaves, crisp air, the sound of wooden stakes getting hammered into the heart of Brenda's rose garden. She came out in her pink tracksuit, hands on hips, and started barking at the surveyors. They didn't even flinch, just pointed down the hill at me. When they marked the property lines, one stake went right through the rose bushes, another through the gazebo. The neighborhood started buzzing, pink ribbons fluttering in the wind, a silent but visible revolution. Brenda panicked, firing off frantic emails, calling the survey unauthorized harassment, threatening to call her lawyer. I couldn't have scripted it better. Then Tom, the surveyor, sent me the official report: a new plat, detailed error analysis, photographs. He'd already filed the new survey with the county. It was public record, unassailable, and a total game changer. At the annual HOA meeting, the room was packed. Most residents, for once, actually showed up. Brenda ran the meeting like a queen awaiting her coronation, but when my agenda item came, I stepped to the front with a slideshow, a folder of plats, and the confidence of a man holding every card. First, Brenda's laminated map, the foundation of her rule. Then the violation notice she sent me. Then, the real plat, the legal one. I explained, calm and steady, that according to the county, only 2 tracts were common area. The rest, privately owned. The violation? Completely bogus. But I wasn't done. I showed the monument error on the map, then revealed the consequences. Brenda's rose garden? On Mr. Miller's land. The secretary's shed? Over the property line. The gazebo? Built illegally on conservation land. The room went silent, then erupted. Anger, confusion, questions flying. Brenda stammered, "This is a lie. He faked the maps." But I held up the official survey, passed out copies to every resident, and told them to check with the county themselves. Her authority, built on that laminated fantasy, crumbled in seconds. The aftermath was swift and ruthless. Arthur, a quiet old civil engineer, stood up and called for a vote of no confidence in the board. Brenda, her treasurer, and her secretary were voted out on the spot. Arthur was named interim president, and real lawyers were brought in. The county confirmed the violations, levied fines, and required the removal of the gazebo's illegal section. Brenda's precious roses? Dug up under the watchful eye of her neighbor. No hired hands, just Brenda with a shovel and a wheelbarrow. The silence from her house became the new soundtrack of Whispering Pines. The old map disappeared from the community hall, replaced by a framed copy of the corrected survey. The air felt lighter, meetings became real discussions, and the ghost of arbitrary rule faded. People respected the lines, checked the facts, and even came to me for advice. I just wanted peace, but I ended up finding a sense of purpose. I joined the Architectural Review Committee to help keep everything above board, literally. Looking back, the lesson is simple. Sometimes you can avoid conflict, especially when someone refuses to listen to reason. But you don't have to shout or fight dirty. The best revenge is methodical, factual, and absolutely undeniable. Sometimes, your quiet expertise is the sharpest sword you've got. So what about you? What's your secret skill? And have you ever used it to stand up for what's right? Let's hear it in the comments. Where do you draw the line between standing your ground and keeping the peace? Share your thoughts below. I'm dying to know.